Chuck Todd is NBC's political director and chief White House correspondent, and Michael Hanlon is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Michael, let me begin with you. When the Arab Spring began, would anyone have predicted we'd be where we are today?
Hi, Lester. Well, overall, I'd say it's been better than I would have predicted on balance. There was a lot of fear, for example, that in Egypt, an Islamic movement, a Muslim Brotherhood government, could have actually ruptured ties with Israel by now, could have cut off all intelligence cooperation with the United States, shut down the Suez Canal. None of that's happened. It's important at a difficult time like this to bear in mind where things could have gone in a much more negative direction. It's been a terrible week for the United States, but I'm still hopeful about a lot of the Arab Spring. We've obviously got to navigate some pretty tough shoals right now, and Syria remains a huge mess. But on balance, if you ask me how things are compared to how I would have guessed a year and a half ago, probably better than on balance I would have surmised.
The U.S. still controls purse strings in as much as the foreign aid to that part of the world. Will that allow the U.S. to continue to exert some influence in the region?
Absolutely. I think President Morsi knows this in Egypt. That's part of why he's sensitive to the fact that his initial reaction to this video, however understandable at a religious level, was inappropriate at a political level, at a leadership level. I think I like to hope he would have figured this out on his own, but it's nice to have $1.5 billion worth of leverage on our side, too.
Chuck, let me turn to you. This all, of course, did not happen in a vacuum. We're in political season right now. Mitt Romney spoke out, some say maybe a little too quickly before understanding all the facts of the timing of the statements. Does the Romney campaign regret anything it's done to this point?
Oh, I think the fact that they took the focus off what they think could have been solely on the president, raising doubts or debates about how has he handled the Arab Spring, how has he managed this, the relationship with Egypt. So in terms of crass political aspect of this, I think they do regret that they allowed themselves to become a focus for 48 hours rather than putting the focus on the president. So what's unclear now, Lester, is do they try to simply get back to the economy, stop talking about foreign policy, let the president deal with this crisis on his own, or do they try to use this moment to exert and show off what they believe would be a different vision on foreign policy?
Well, some would argue they've put all their eggs in one basket, the economic basket, but as we've seen time and time again, events can drive a political campaign. Might that be the case here? Might foreign policy end up dominating between now and November?
Well, it certainly could dominate between now and the first debate when you just look at the timeline of things that are going on. And then in 10 days, you have the UN General Assembly opening up, and I guarantee you this issue is going to come up. You're going to probably have a lot of Arab countries. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes an issue at the United Nations. President and Mitt Romney will both be in New York at that time. So I think there's a good chance that not just the events, the unexpected events going on right now in the Middle East, but because of what's going to be happening in New York City in just 10 days, that foreign policy will be front and center for the next 2 weeks. And then because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if Romney decides to do a big vision foreign policy speech.
And Michael, what about the president? Is his foreign policy now under question as we watch events here?
Well, it certainly changes the narrative in that situation as well, because the president had wanted to portray toughness in regard to al-Qaeda, an ending to the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and also his re-pivoting or rebalancing towards Asia. That was the narrative he preferred. When you get through that basic set of accomplishments, and then you have to ask the question, are we better off than we were 4 years ago? And we see embassies being attacked around the world. It's hard to say yes. So whether it's President Obama's fault at all or not, and I don't really think it is, it does change the narrative. And so, no, it can't be good for the president. And obviously, it's tragic. You can tell from yesterday's ceremony how much people admired this ambassador and the other State Department employees who were killed, how sad of a day this is for the country. I don't think it was anything good for the president.
All right, good to talk to both of you. Chuck Todd, Michael O'Hanlon, thanks very much. Now to presidential politics and the debate that erupted this week over Mitt Romney's criticism of the initial White House response to that tragedy in Libya. NBC's Ron Mott is in Roanoke, Virginia, on the campaign trail with Congressman and VP candidate Paul Ryan. Ron, good morning.
Hey, Lester, good morning to you. As you mentioned, Mitt Romney has been on the defensive the past few days for leveling criticism at the Obama administration and its initial response to the situation in Libya, criticism that occurred even before all the facts were in. So, Lester, essentially Mitt Romney yesterday sort of softened his stance on this situation in Libya. He says that the White House eventually agreed with him that the comments that were made by the embassy, not sanctioned by the White House, were not appropriate. Take a look at the spot here. At Andrews Air Force Base Friday, a somber ceremony, draped in pain and patriotism.
Today, we bring home 4 Americans who gave their lives for our country and our values.
As the remains of the 4 Americans killed in Libya were delivered to their families.
They loved this country, and they chose to serve it, and served it well. They had a mission, and they believed in it. They knew the danger, and they accepted it.
The president led a ceremony honoring U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, Information Management Officer Sean Smith, and security officials Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, slain in a September 11th attack on the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi. The tragedy turned political Tuesday night, even before the scope of the situation was fully known, when Mitt Romney issued a statement criticizing the Obama administration's initial response, calling it disgraceful to, quote, sympathize with those who waged the attacks. Romney was referring to an embassy statement released before the attack, intended to quell the increasingly angry and growing protests that preceded it. Democrats and the president himself fired back, with Mr. Obama saying the embassy statement was not sanctioned by the White House and that Governor Romney
seems to have a tendency to shoot first, name later.
Romney eventually softened his stance somewhat.
So no regrets?
Well, I indicated at the time and continue to that what was said at that time was not appropriate, that they continued to have that. They reiterated the statement after the been breaching of the grounds, and I think that was wrong.
At rallies in Ohio and Virginia on Friday, Governor Romney and Paul Ryan each called for moments of silence for the Libya victims.
Place your hand over your heart in recognition of the bloodshed for freedom by them and by our other sons and daughters who've lost their lives in the cause of America, in the cause of liberty.
All in all, a pretty tough week for the Romney campaign. The latest NBC News Wall Street Journal polling shows Governor Romney falling further behind the president in Ohio, here in Virginia, and down in Florida, which is where Paul Ryan is headed for rallies down in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. Lester?
All right, Ron Mott, thanks very much.